In a world that often feels increasingly fast-paced and uncertain, it's no surprise that anxiety has become a prevalent challenge, especially for our children. From academic pressures to social anxieties, to the constant barrage of information from screens, young people today face a unique set of stressors that can significantly impact their well-being. But what if we could equip them with the tools, the understanding, and the resilience to navigate these challenges, not with fear, but with courage, self-compassion, and a sense of hope? That's the mission behind Benny's adventure, Overcoming Anxiety, a beautifully written and thoughtfully crafted book by Paloma Scott. More than just a story, it's a gentle guide, a roadmap for young readers to understand their anxieties, identify their triggers, and develop practical coping mechanisms that empower them to take control of their inner world. Through the relatable journey of Benny, a young character who faces his own fears, with the help of a wise friend and some simple yet effective techniques, children learn that anxiety doesn't have to be a barrier to living a full and joyful life. Paloma Scott talks about her inspiring book, the importance of addressing anxiety in childhood, and the power of storytelling to connect with young readers on a deeply emotional level. Valeria interviews Paloma Scott. She is the author of Benny's Adventure, Overcoming Anxiety. Paloma Scott is a dynamic and compassionate registered psychologist. Paloma empowers her clients with warmth and care, ensuring they feel truly valued. She specializes in counseling children and adults with ADHD and ASD, helping them develop crucial emotional regulation skills and strategies. Other specialties include complex cases of PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Additionally, Paloma supports clients recovering from motor vehicle accidents, guiding them through trauma and helping them on their road to recovery. With Paloma, you're not just supported, you're understood and empowered to thrive. Meet Paloma at insightsolutionspsychology.com. Here's the interview with Paloma Scott.
Hello, everyone. This is another A Quest for Wellbeing podcast interview. And my guest today, which we have done an interview before, but that's a video. They'll be on a YouTube channel, Fit for Joy, and also on our website, fitforjoy.org. But today, this is the audio only. As you know, this is our platform to listen and relax. So my guest today is Paloma Scott. She is a registered psychologist, the author of Benny's Adventure, Overcoming Anxiety, and founder of Insight Solutions Psychology. So this is my brief introduction to you, Paloma, as always, and I'm just reading here. But how would you introduce yourself for those who have not been in touch with your content online or have not watched the interview we did before? Who are you in your own words?
Right. So I'm Paloma Scott, psychologist in Alberta, Canada, and I'm author of the first book and Benny's Adventure Overcoming Anxiety. And this is my brand new book. I've been practicing over 25 years, and I've been, I provide counseling to kids, to adolescents, adults, and couples, and mainly with diverse mental health issues, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, ADHD, so all sort of different mental health issues. And the intention of now I'm kind of navigate to this new kind of career as an author, because I found a very good way to help people that cannot come to get the help in my office. So I was just, trying to make more accessible to everybody that doesn't have the financial availability or doesn't have the time. How can I could help? And then in a preventive way, I see some adults with anxiety, but then how can we help the children so when they grow up, they have good coping strategies, so perhaps they will not feel so anxious.
Yes, it's a beautiful work. And we have talked before and all the the questions actually we went much deeper. I usually tend to do that. I love going as deep as I can go when it comes to any topic. So I love the what you have done in terms of being creative on how new ways of helping people. That's what I love, using creativity with that purpose of helping others to understand where their suffering is coming from. Basically, like, I have this whole new platform about ending suffering, the end of suffering. But I think we always, to answer that question, like if I asked you that question, what's the end of suffering? How can we end suffering? I believe that we need to begin with the question of what causes suffering in the first place. And that's different for everyone, right, Paloma?
Totally. And I think that that's a very way to change and rewire our brain in the sense of how can I live this life without suffering? What
Right.
can I change inside of me in terms of thought processing or
Mm,
behaviors that I might feel better about it being here in this planet and helping people and
mm,
fulfill their journey, their lives. So I think that a part of what I teach here, clients, and I'm grateful that you brought this question is, what can I change in my perception of the world, of the people, that
mm,
I might see them in a more positive way? Because perhaps if I see in a more positive perspective the world and people, I will feel less stressed about, I will feel less anxious, I will feel less angry, right? And
mhm.
all the
Oh,
negative
yeah.
emotions, I will be able to mitigate them and also have a different action and react to stressors in life in a more positive way.
Yes. So it goes back to perspective, perception of life itself, ourselves, others. That's a big one. Yes, yes, a billion times to that truth. I wonder um, what's the bridge, or what's the balance between, let's say, positive thinking and delusion?
Mhm.
Because I have done that
Right,
before. I have done that before myself. So talk to me for a
right.
moment about that.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting question, because it's almost like thinking about, oh, you're so positive, right? You live
Mm,
in this you know
yes.
la la land or delusional, but it's not really about this. It's like, bad things will happen, or with our negative connotation we say bad things or positive things. But for instance, presidents change, right?
Yeah.
Economy change. AI now is a big hit. People are trying to adjust, but some of them are
Yes.
losing their jobs. So a lot of things are changing in our lives,
Yeah.
and we just have to adjust. So the idea of, if
Mm,
I see every single stressor as a negative, from a negative perspective, I will feel stressed out about, anxious all the time, because I cannot control
mm,
what things
right.
in the world will change. I only can control my perception. So it's almost like a part of feeling healthy, and enhance mental health is, how can I see things in my life, stressors, as a positive, from a positive perspective. For instance, you drive, someone cut you off, and then give you the finger, for instance. And some
Yeah.
people feel very angry or anxious, what's going to happen? But then see situations like that from a positive perspective. You know what? Poor guy, he's under stress, but I will not let this situation ruin my day. I will
Mm,
protect myself from this situation to destroy and disturb me. And now I'm in the same vibration. Now I'm angry. Now I'm anxious. No, it's like have make the decision in a conscious way. I will not let anything to disturb me. And it's not easy, as we say,
right.
but
Yeah.
it's possible, right? Because
Yes.
that's the mindset. Like, I can be stressed out, and I have clients here all the time. They come, they have a okay stable life, but the what ifs part of the anxiety symptom. Oh, but
Mm,
it's too
mm,
calm, it's too good to be truth, I'm waiting that something bad will happen. That's a kind of a typical anxiety response, that I'm
right.
always thinking about the worst scenario possible, even if the situation is okay. But I
Mm,
would say for mental health, it's really part of this is changing our thought processing all the time. Like every time we feel anxious about something, we just see from a different perspective. It's like, wait a minute, this is not too bad. What is the learning process that I have to identify here? What are the solutions that I can put in place, and really navigate through this process, because then I feel more in control. I can
mm,
do something about this, unexpected situation, for instance, or I make me feel more empowered that I can control
mm.
some aspect of my life.
Right. Yes, that's a big one. And especially when it comes to feelings. So I love your perspective of course, it's something that I have been practicing pretty much my entire life as soon as I became aware of it. But it took time. So it is a practice, right, Paloma? Because it doesn't happen
Yeah.
overnight. We need to be patient with ourselves. So my question is, until we get to the point of closing that gap where we are not reactive, now we're responding, we pause and we don't so the body's not affected with the anxiety symptoms. So, but with
Mhm.
feelings, so for now, let's say while we are practicing this, what do we do in relation to the physical sensations when we have somebody cut us off, as you mentioned, as an example, and then the first thing that comes, the body automatically kind of reacts to
Mhm.
it and becomes shaky and nervous and anxious, and then we come with let's say the mental kind of a soothing new perspective. But and
Yeah.
so what do we do with the feelings, those sensations at first? That's my question.
Right. So, in this case, we have to kind of recognize our physical symptoms. Oh, now the guy just crossed me. My heart is beating fast. I'm feeling
Yes.
a little sweaty in my hands.
Yeah.
I feel shaky or hyperventilating. As soon as you identify some physical symptoms, then you can intensify the deep breathing. And I would
Mm,
say a good way that helps to regulate the heart beating and then the whole symptoms and control the anxiety symptoms is taking a big deep breath and put a lot of oxygen into your brain and body and hold for 4 seconds. Then
mm,
after you exhale slowly throughout your mouth, and you repeat this process. So between is breathing and breathe out, we will hold for 4 seconds, because in
yeah.
this process I'm putting more oxygen into your brain, and physically the effect is positive, because if someone is experiencing a hyperventilating response, with this pause of 4 seconds you are forcing our heart to slow down.
Yeah.
And by doing this, we have less anxiety symptoms. And not only the physical part, Valeria, but also
Yeah.
the cognitive piece. When I'm
Mm,
so anxious, I
right.
might not have the clarity what
Right.
to do, what to say. I might feel overwhelmed and more anxious. But now if I have a heart attack, right? So
Yeah.
can inspire, but with the deep breathing helps to even bring more oxygen to our brain and give us more clarity. Okay, nothing's happened. It was just a guy. I can control my body. And so deep breathing is one of the positive techniques, I would say. Another
Right.
one is a five sense. So at the moment as you're driving, you can feel in your hands, the wheel. You can feel the or smell, right? So it's five
Yeah.
things you can see, and you can bring your attention to these. Okay, I'm driving. I see things in blue, and again, not fully being distracted as you drive, but bringing your attention to stimulus at the moment that might help, like a smell or things you can see or you can touch. So, or putting a music, a calm music, everything that will bring you more in a grounding state.
Right. And that's very, very helpful. Yes. Another billion times to those beautiful techniques. And that's something that I have used to for a long time. So I know you don't, your book, Benny's Adventure Overcoming Anxiety, it's not necessarily addressing people like me, and so many people had complex PTSD. So that's a
Mhm.
little bit, it might be a little bit more complex, right? Using that same word. So,
Yes.
but is that something that would prevent actually like the techniques, all these techniques that you have, that you beautifully outline in your book, and you also, we have been talking about now for a while. Are those also
Mhm.
prevention in a way for children not to become traumatized?
Yes, absolutely. Because in a very playful way, and I see so many, adults here sharing with me, oh, now makes sense once that, we have go through an assessment and diagnosis of, I don't know, generalized anxiety disorder or separation anxiety disorder and other ones. And they realize
Right,
I had these symptoms since I was a kid, but my parents didn't know what to do with me. I
right.
was always scared leaving the house or being in the dark, or I always thought that something bad will happen to my parents or whatever. And they have no idea. They didn't realize that was the first signs of anxiety. But
Right.
again, I guess that's the part, Valerie. I think that is, I'm really grateful that I'm kind of now sharing this information with more people just to build
Yeah.
awareness that when you see sometimes a child is scared or, in the dark or don't want to start new activities, is having a better understanding that maybe this could be a separation anxiety disorder, right? Like
Yeah.
some symptoms that instead of brushing off and say no, you just go and push, that could be sometimes traumatized, but no, see from a different perspective, in the sense of I'm going to teach you emotional regulation, some coping strategies for you to understand that you do have control of your body. You might not feel that you have, but you do.
Mm,
And let's teach deep breathing, positive thinking, all these strategies, meditation, and visualization that prevents them to get to the point that they is out of control. They need antidepressants and feel very overwhelmed and
yeah.
impair their functionality in life. So I think it's very preventable.
It is. I love that. That's one of the things that I'm very much interested in, and as an advocate for prevention of trauma. That for me, it starts with kindness. It's something I think that I talk to everyone about. That's one of my, I guess, my guiding principles for life. Every time I return to love, I return to kindness, everything changes within my own body. My life becomes so much better. And then my relationships, everything. And it's something that I always, always, always go back to. So, in a sense, teaching children to be kind to themselves, right? Accepting and self-reliant, of course. Yeah, that having that strength. I can do this. And it's funny, Paloma, because that also applies to adults, right? Sometimes we grow up to be just traumatized children. We're just big, much bigger, but we're still behaving like traumatized children. I see that. I still see that in my
Totally.
family. It's funny.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because even sometimes they've been, there's a pattern now. You're talking about kids who have been bullied, but then they
Yeah.
come and they are not facing bullying at a workplace. And that is
Yes.
the same as you mentioned, like it's almost like bringing them back, but they are
Yeah.
not adults now. But again, because of the lack of skills, they don't
Mm.
know how to deal. And they are, return to that being the little child that's like, I don't know how to deal with this. Nobody taught me. I
Yes.
don't know what to
Yeah.
do, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm very compassionate though. And although I see that the best way a lot of times, well, in my case, because I'm kind of I live here in the United States. I'm not close to my family. They're in Brazil, so it's easier for me to create this gap too, this distance, and kind of be compassionate but not get involved because they are not really. Some people are not willing to go deeper, right, in that journey of healing, and to do the
Absolutely.
work. And we cannot force it, right, Paloma? In that case, when we are adults, yeah, that's.
Interesting how you mentioned because I'm from Brazil.
Oh, you're from Brazil too? Oh my God,
I
I
am
didn't
from
know.
Brazil
I
too.
didn't know that.
To doing Portuguese at some
Really?
time.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh my God, Paloma, really? See, I
Yes,
cannot
I'm
talk to
from
you in Portuguese
Maceió.
now, but off record, yes, not
Yeah,
now. Oh,
no,
that's
that
so
is
sweet.
awesome. Because
Yeah.
another part is you brought it up because it's part of the house, create healthy boundaries too. It's
Mhm.
learning when the relationships are toxic and
Right,
when we have to protect ourselves, right? So
right.
sometimes we have to draw this line that say no, this is affecting me, and therefore I have to stop or minimize the contact, or feel
Mm.
what is best for you, for us.
Right. And that's exactly what I've been doing for years now. I mean, that's funny
Good.
because I did meet other Brazilians here, not in Hawaii, but in different places that I live in the United States. And I noticed that
Yeah.
they actually don't like that. Like because they're all traumatized too. They come from a lot of trauma and they're like, oh no, another Brazilian. That means I'm gonna have to
Oh,
remember about my trauma now. I don't want to
oh
speak Portuguese
no.
even. Yes. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but that happens.
Oh,
Yeah, it has happened before. Although I was married to a Brazilian before, yeah, so I was very much in the culture, the Brazilian culture, here in the United States. But that aside, let me go back to that question. Another thing I wanted to mention that I actually mentioned before to a lot of Americans here that I interviewed them, how we Brazilians, for some reason, I've been here in the United States pretty much half and half, like half of my life as a child and adolescent in Brazil, but then the other half here. So I'm kind of my Portuguese not that great. It's getting rusty. But what I was about to say that I noticed there's a lot of depth. Brazilians are very open to the depth of what is to be a human, what life is all about. There's something about I don't know. Can you talk to me? I know this is off record, and I know we have even another topic here that's off record about your new project with private practice startup course, and I'm bringing all these
uh-huh.
topics now. But can you please talk to me about that for a moment? Is that a culture kind of, let's say, remark? Is that a cultural thing? This, being able to be open to the depth of life. I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think it has to deal with from my observation, I practiced in Brazil as well for many, many years, like over
Yeah.
maybe 15 years. And then
Mm,
here in Canada, for around 20 years. So I'm a little
yeah.
bit old, but I can
You are old.
compare, like always in private practice. So there, in Brazil, I found that maybe it's a part of our culture. It's the people are so,
Mm,
doesn't have a lot of um,
mm,
privileged, right? As we
right.
have probably in US and in Canada
Yeah.
too, but
Right.
that's the part of they know it's always make the situations in a positive way. See things in
Mm,
a positive way that
right.
actually help them to feel a little bit
Right.
more happier, even from our
Mm,
perspective, like what you are happy so about, right? So happy
yeah.
about because the
Yeah.
economy is not good, but they
Right.
have these strengths that they see things, and believe me, I think that they experience way more severe
Right.
mental health and
Yes.
struggles than us, right, in North America.
Oh yeah.
But they are happy. You see this kind of enlightenment. They want to do things, and it's interesting to observe this difference because and I think in the other hand, here in North America and Canada, is so more advanced in terms of mental health.
Yeah.
Parents bring their kids when they are wet in the bed, or if they've been bullied or any anxiety, which in Brazil and probably in South America is more like like there are a lot of bias. Oh, you're
Yeah.
not crazy. Why you have to see a psychologist, for instance? I see,
Yes.
I hear from the parents of the kids all the time, and I speak
Uh,
Spanish too, so
oh,
a
you
lot is
do?
more from the Latin community that I get
Yeah.
these, like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned because I'm not crazy, and
Yeah.
I kind of
Mm.
talk over these, that is about our culture, but here in North America is different. There's no bias. It's important to work on a
Right.
preventive approach.
Right. It's to me that's the foundation. That's why I love your work working with children because, as I said to you with the video interview, that's the foundation. Though, if we can pass that on to children, if we can teach them to prevent um, prevention of trauma basically is becoming more realistic about life, isn't it, Paloma? Not that because there's a lot of you see, illusions one thing, but delusions another thing. And I remember being very naive about life, and people. Oh, maybe I can trust everybody, and that's okay. And that got me into a lot of trouble. So I think there's something about teaching children to be innocent, but at the same time and open, but at the same time wise. There's something about wisdom that has to do about not being afraid of seeing the truth as it is, facing truth without
Absolutely.
fear, right?
Exactly. Like even in terms of how I see kids, and I don't know about your experience, but
Right.
even the experience here, I have my child, my two
Yeah.
daughters, like when they're 6,
Yeah.
all these schools talking about, your bodies, your private body, don't let anybody touch, all of those as a way to build
Mm,
awareness of their own
yes.
body, and also
Yes.
prevent any other, abuse or anything
Right.
future. And then it's very positive, which in comparison in Brazil, nobody talks about
I
anything,
know.
right? So
Yeah.
it's just, it creates this culture of, a lot of kids are naive. They don't know
Mm,
much about it because nobody talks about it. It creates a little bit of the bias. Like, you don't know, we don't talk about, there's no sex
um,
education.
right.
Which I
Right.
think it's important. Here in Canada, we have these, and I think it is positive. It's not,
Yeah.
make them um, more aware of things that they should not. I think it's important for them to know that is my body, right, and
Right.
feel protected.
That's it. So education, it goes back to education because we need to
Mhm.
be very pragmatic when it comes to life. You are absolutely right. My sister, I don't have children, but my sister does. She has a boy. He's about 12 now, but she talks to me
Mhm.
a lot about. She's very educated, so she's a teacher too. So she's always talking to him about everything, and she says that to me. We didn't have that education, you and I, you and I, and my brother. I have a brother too, so all of us, we never. My mother, my father, they never talked to us about these things, and that caused a lot of trouble because then we just kind of didn't know how to navigate life itself. And I remember getting myself in a lot of trouble as a young adult, not knowing what was, my boundaries, what was, let's say, acceptable and what was not. So I didn't,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, it's so sad even to think about it, Paloma. It's right now from this perspective as an adult, as a wiser adult. So it's,
Yes.
so I want to go back just quickly, the topic again of suffering and anxiety being part of that very much causes a lot of suffering, not just in adults but also in children and in everything else between. I mean, it's just so sad to see even the collective, suffering. Everybody kind of working with the same narratives, the same stories, and kind of passing on suffering. But is there a difference between suffering and pain? Do you see the difference?
Um, I they are very similar, but I believe that when we talk about suffering, is a prolonged pain, and
Right,
in
right.
my perspective, like a pain, I feel pain now, but not necessarily is prolonged. But the suffering is something that is more deeply connected to the soul. I can be in this
Mm,
suffering stage,
yeah,
and not necessarily being related to the pain. I see pain as more isolated, it than suffering. Suffering, I think, it is so deep that affect
Yeah.
the perspective of life, affect
Yeah. Yeah.
being, the whole part of why am I here? I'm so in this deep suffering that make people contemplate, I don't want to be here suffering. That's not a
Mm,
good life, right? And then make them
yeah.
navigate to these dark waters. That is not positive. Which pain is more, I think, more specific. I'm in pain, but I can overcome. I will do something to release any emotion that I might have and to overcome my pain.
Yes. I like your perspective. I have heard different kinds of, I got different answers for that question, but I like to believe that too, that in a sense, you're speaking of one has more of the sense of empowerment. So pain, I can do something about it. So let me create a plan. Let me do something, act upon it. And
Yeah.
suffering is almost like this helpless type of
Yes.
helplessness, right? Type of attitude where we don't know what to do and we just kind of going through the same feelings and emotions, but just not really doing anything about it. Or sometimes we are not even aware that there is something that can be done about it, and then we're
Absolutely.
just suffering. Yes. So thank you for answering that question. I'm so curious about all these things because that's why I do this. Going back
Yeah.
to,
No, that's
oh yes, Paloma, I'm sorry, you're about to say something.
no. That's awesome because I think that that's the in terms of deep, right? Suffering is something I think it's a deep suffering in the soul that I feel helpless. I can't find any way out. I'm just feeling trapped and in pain. I think that you outline in a very positive way. It's like, okay, I'm in pain. What can I do to feel better? What kind of strategies I might put in place, or who can I talk to? Is anything or plan I can what's the action plan? What can I do? I guess that has more wisdom, I guess, to change life.
Yes. Yes. You mentioned the soul. I think that's what you're referring to, right? And the soul, it's something that we often talk about the soul more from a spiritual perspective. I mean, of course, spiritual, a lot of people become spiritual because they're suffering, right? It was my case too. And I became a lot
Mhm.
more spiritual for that reason. So talk to me about that for a moment. The soul, what is the soul in relation to let's say what we are doing in life, our goals, our way of thinking. What's the influence of the soul in our lives and personality?
I Right. I guess that from this perspective, it's hard to determine what actually happened, where we came from. Like we have a lot of
Right.
different theories, but
Yeah.
again, I guess at the end, you pick what is more appropriate for you, what you are more agree on. But I guess that the soul, it's really that's the part people thinking about, how can I attend my emotional needs, how can I attend my physical needs, but they forget about the emotional, sorry, they forget about the spiritual, the soul. So they
Right.
might, and these means like they are all interrelated, they are all together. Because I
Mm,
might, as an example, for
yeah.
instance, I might get a job that I feel miserable, right? And these will make me will feel miserable, unhappy. These will define and determine how my worldview. I will
Yeah.
determine my behaviors, and I might be an angry person, for instance,
Right.
because I
Right.
have these. It's not fulfilling. So the meaning of life for me is nothing. And there's no meaning
Mm,
because I go to work, come home, go to work, and life is about this. It's earning money, pay for my bills, and that is it. And I
right.
can, I might have a relationship or whatever, but there's no much of cultivation with to my soul. And
Mm,
when you put in a different perspective, I think that you have any sort of faith, not religion,
Mm.
but faith,
Yes.
faith in that things will get better, that there are some positive things in the world.
Right.
Have these, do things for your soul. What I want to do, I want to meditate, I want to go to the ocean, I want to walk, and as I'm doing, I'm fulfill my soul. As I
Right.
work, I will try to find something that give me pleasure, fulfill my soul, that's positive, helping others, making a good impact. And these become the
Mm.
meaning of my life. And
Mm.
that is the most important part, because if I don't have a meaning for my life, I might feel more hopeless
Right.
than people that they have. And that's the part. Sometimes there is no, oh, if I have a lot of money, or if I was born here or there, like overall, it's not about how can I, if I have a meaningful life, I will be happy. It's the other way around. How can I make my life meaningful right here, right now? How
Mm.
can, I don't
Yeah.
like my job, how can I change, because I don't want to feel unhappy, right?
Mm.
So it's really coming
Yes.
from this deep reflection that I have control of my life. I have to find a job, a purpose in what I do, feel good around people that I have in my life, and
Mm.
these will turn into fulfill my life, will give me a purpose. And with this purpose, good purpose of my life, I will feel happy. And
Mm.
not, there's nothing to do with what I have. It's, I feel happy because I have a purpose. And that's very related to the spiritual part.
Wow. Yes. I love listening to you. I mean, you're very wise soul. You're a very
Oh,
wise
thank you.
person. Yeah. I'm a lover of wisdom. Yes, I heard a lot there. I mean, just beautifully, profoundly, and beautifully said. Yes. So my question is, are children able to are we able to communicate this, the soul's purpose or having meaning to children, or they already live in this kind of world?
I think that that's kind of a combination. I think that they are surprisingly open, and they are so wise.
Yeah.
When sometimes parents bring them, oh, I don't know, little Johnny, or or I don't know what to say, or how he's gonna perceive these, but they
Yeah.
already know, they sense.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that is the important part, because
Yeah.
even the discrepancy between, sometimes the parents say one thing, you should do this, you should not fight with your sister, whatever, but then they
Right.
fight between themselves, right? And
Yeah.
again, go back to the models, like, okay, what should I do? Follow what you're
Yeah.
saying or follow what you're doing?
Yes.
um, and it's very confusing. So it's interesting that the parents sometimes come with a certain narrative, and then
Yeah.
when I talk to the child, and they know, like, oh no, this has happened, I'm fully aware of the situation. And
Right.
then we kind of work on, okay, so how can you protect yourself from the fights, or from these situations? And then we work with them in terms of strategies. And I use a lot of play-based therapy, depends on the age of the
Yeah.
child, and they respond really well. Throughout the play, they learn how to take a deep breath, how to shift the reality in terms of, oh, you're very negative, you just see negative things
Mhm.
throughout the day at school,
Mm.
how about we see some things positive? and
Yeah.
and slowly they start shifting their
Yes.
thought process and their perspective, focus more on the positive things instead
Mm.
of the negative aspect
Mm.
of their lives. And they
Right.
start feeling
Because we have both, right, Paloma? Both.
absolutely.
It's always there, accessible and available. The what we call the let's say the I usually view as healthy and unhealthy, or helpful, not helpful. Basically, that's how I
That's
see it.
true.
Like, wait a minute, this
Yes,
is not
totally.
helpful. This is helpful, and then I go this way.
Yes, totally. No,
So
that's interesting to see.
yeah, I usually go that because then I'm very careful. also because I come from complex PTSD, so the mind is a lot more sensitive in the sense of grasping to, when it grasps the negative, then it becomes depressed, over
Mhm.
anxious,
Yes.
even panic attacks. I remember having them. So that kind of helps kind of balancing the realm of perception. And then I'm always in the middle. Wait a minute, this is just not helpful, and that's okay. And then I move on. It's much easier. And I also found, I mean, from my perspective, that when fear arises,
Mhm.
I go back to that. What you have been mentioning, the is the soul, and it's almost like it comes through as in with storytelling. That's interesting to see that you wrote a book and for children storytelling. There's so much power in storytelling. So I would love to go back to that because this is something that I do. I mean, I just, it comes to me. It's almost like a song. When every time I hear a song, I love music and usually like very, beautiful music. So when I read a story that's really well told, do I listen to it? It feels like a song. It feels like a melody. It kind of carries me. It kind of carries me from fear to being helpful,
Yes.
to kind of use my energies to help others and to do good in the world. So, talk to me about, again, your book. And I would love for the audience, the audio audience, to hear about the stuffy animals that you created too. It's so beautiful. I know we cannot show it here because it's not video, but we do have a video interview that's on the YouTube channel. So that will be released soon. So talk to me about the overall arch of the story and also the helpful kind of tools that come along with that.
Right. And part of these, it's working with kids is a little bit different than works with adults.
Right.
They need to be, as they assimilate more the information in a playful way. That's why I use play-based therapy, but
Yeah.
also in a more a gentle and
Mhm.
storytelling in the sense of is redirect their attention to an animal. So the animal is anxious. And as we talk about the bunny, and then I have the stuffy animal too that comes along with the book.
Yeah.
I'm already
Yeah.
sending you these
Oh, I
a little
love them.
copy of the book, and then
Yeah.
Tilly and also Benny. But
Yeah.
I created these. So Tilly is a little
Mm.
turtle, and Tilly is the counselor, is the psychologist, that friend that goes along and help Benny, who faces a lot of challenges in life, and it's almost like a journey in our lives, right? So he has to go to a maze and he's fearful, and he has to cross a river and he's
Right.
fearful. So Benny is
Mm.
expressing a lot of signs of and symptoms of anxiety, but then Tilly is there to encourage him. Take a deep breath. You can do it, and
Yeah.
come with your positive affirmations. You can do. You are strong. You can do these all day long. So feel brave. And this is the type of mantras that, as an adult, we acquired and we tell ourselves. But as
Yes.
a kid, as the parents read or they read the story, they say, "Wow!" And they start to, some parts of the story start resonate with them. I'm like that too. I'm like
Yeah.
Benny the bunny. I'm fearful of
Yeah.
presentations, class presentations. I'm fearful of failing this quiz or this assignment or
Right.
exam. So they start to think about and reflect on their own lives, their own challenges in life and fears, and also find out there are some strategies that they could use, like the bunny is using, that might be effective and help them.
Yes, very, very much, Paloma. It's I mean, I love how I said that before, how you're using your creative power to empower. Isn't it what you're doing? Exactly that.
Yes, good. I
How
like the phrase.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing. It's just from the get go was just like, oh, how what a beautiful work. And you know what comes to mind when I think about Tilly, the counselor, the therapist. I think about a best friend, of course. And then when I go deeper into it, if we can apply as adults, I think about the higher self. That's the wisdom, like the within, the voice of our own wisdom, isn't it, speaking? That's how it comes
Absolutely.
across for me.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, Valeria, because the part of the work as with a child, we start to provide information, provide some coping strategies, and they are listening, right? So from an
Right.
external stimulus, they listen and they start assimilating, and eventually they internalize.
Yeah.
And by internalizing all these strategies, that what will come with the inner self now is part of
Mm,
me. When I'm
yeah.
down as an adult, I know all that strategies. No, Paloma, you can do it. But just one thing, bump in the road. So I create
Mm,
this positive self-talking. But the idea is that's why it's so preventive work with children, because then you teach them skills, they eventually assimilate, internalize, and they start to develop this positive self-talking for life and
mm.
encourage themselves.
That's it. And that's what we want, right? That's per se, that's the goal, right? If there is one, right, Paloma, would be that that becomes
Exactly.
their own voice when they are adults. Yes. I mean, you're doing really beautiful work. I love, love, love a billion times the creative part of it because I'm very creative myself. And I just kind of love creativity. And not all, we are not all the same, obviously. So I speak to a lot of therapists and psychologists, coaches, but not too many of us kind of develop this creative side that can be helpful. So, and you're doing that. So, thank you, because it's something
Oh,
that's
you're
very close to my
welcome.
heart. Yeah, I love being creative. So, I want to mention that your book, so Benny's Adventure Overcoming Anxiety, is available on your website, insightsolutionspsychology.com. And you also have an e-course, Overcoming Anxiety. And that also we can find on your website. I will have the website here. It will be clickable on the podcast notes. But you also have something else that you're working on now that we talked off record about it. That's about your private practice startup course. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so right now the book is also in Amazon. You can find it
Yeah,
in Amazon and can buy.
yeah.
We have this anxiety course, so it's
Mm,
more teaching adults with these strategies. What can I do? We talk a little bit about. I talk about cognitive distortions, so it's more how can I change my thought processing? What kind of strategies I can put in place to shift my thought processing from negative perspective, positive perspective, but also a lot of coping strategies for them without therapy, just
yeah.
understand their process, what they have to do. That's part of the e-course. And then everybody goes on your own pace. But I've heard that from some people that is per se it's very effective and also affordable because they
Right,
maybe have a session with me once a week or once a month instead of once a week, so it's
right,
very positive. But
right.
also I'm thinking about how can I cause it, provide a good positive impact in other professionals out there, psychologists, therapists, counselors, that they want to start a private practice but they don't know much about it. What they come up, what kind of plan they should come up, what kind of concerns, and reflect on things, their approach, if it's going to incorporate or not. So all of these specific in terms of billing, I provide some forms that I use in my private practice that you can, any therapist or psychologist have to of course see their own college of psychologists, but its overall can be used. You just have to adjust my case notes, all of those intake forms. That was going to be helpful for who is starting, don't have to do any research or feel anxious
Mm,
about how can
yes.
I start my company, right? So it's really a package, comes with all the forms, with a good advice how to create and how to to, decide if you're going to have provisional psychologists, if you're going to work with other professionals or not. So I think it is very helpful.
It is. And it ties in with your work anyway, because that caused a lot of anxiety, like at the beginning, especially for new psychologists and new therapists, that they don't really, I mean, I can imagine. I remember myself starting all the business that I have started in my life. Yeah, I had a lot of anxiety and I didn't know where to begin. No idea where to begin.
Totally.
So it's important to
Yes.
have guidance. So that's what you're doing. And the link for that, Paloma, just please correct me if this is not correct, but I have the link here, insightsolutionspsychology.com/challenges. Is that the link for
Yes.
the private
Yes.
practice? So I'll have both. So I'll have the link for the private practice startup course, and I'll have also of course, your website and the Amazon link for your book. Actually, will be listed in that way. My team usually they kind of link to Amazon. Like naturally, so that will be there. Anything else? I think I have so many. I mean, I could talk to you forever. I could just keep going. But we are at the end for the interview time. I would like to invite your final thoughts. Is there anything that you'd like to close with the interview?
No, I'm grateful. Thank you so much for having me today, Valeria. I think it is wonderful the job that you do, bringing awareness, bringing professionals to talk about some very positive, relevant topics for everybody. And then hopefully these part of the book and all these strategies, information that I shared will be helpful for everybody. And as a psychologist in Canada, unfortunately, I cannot provide any therapy outside of Alberta, Canada, but I can provide consultations too. So this is something that I will be open to, and then engage and collaborate with other professionals. So the only thing that I cannot provide is therapy, but consultations with professionals, with some people that are interested, or provide some guidance what to look for in terms of therapy and what is more effective, I can do. So if you are in US and you are interested, have some, consultation or even some thoughts into your own journey, therapy, in terms of therapy or strategies, I'm open to provide some guidance.
Yes, that's really wonderful to know. So you have in person in Canada and also virtual. There will be consultations. You don't call it coaching. Are you also a coach, Paloma?
No, I am pretty much a registered psychologist. But if it's more like I'm also a counselor in BC, clinical counselor, is in another province. But I think we will take this as a coach, not the consultations, not as a psychologist. It's more like a professional from a lot of experience, over 25 years of experience, and if the person wants to just say, I have these, and I went through different therapies. What would you recommend? Not to do with me, but in the person's, find their own psychologist or therapist. But I can provide some guidance. What's effective, evidence-based?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you so much for clarifying that. So I asked because I do interview a lot of psychologists that are also they're coaches. They do both. And I don't know if that's something that maybe you'll probably be doing that one of these days. I hope so. The coaching is more like expanding, right, on that, on your work already. So thank you so much again for your beautiful presence, for your wise presence, and the helpful and insightful and heart-centered work that you're doing. That's how I very much see it. And it goes back again and again and again to wisdom, isn't it? Applying what we know to be true. And that's what you're doing. Thank you so much, Paloma, for being you. And we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. Bye for now, my dear.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Take
Paloma.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Paloma Scott and her work, please visit insightsolutionspsychology.com.